Family Gaming Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engage, a family gaming podcast. This is episode 98. My name is Steven Dutzman. I am your host, as always. This week, we're talking about video games. This is a special week because we actually have a special guest, one Eric Rogers. He is credited as the showrunner of many things, but specifically, we're talking about Skylanders Academy, which is a big hit on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you should probably watch it. It's like 11 episodes. It's like 2 days. I mean, we binge stuff, right? Is it 11 episodes?
It's 12. The 12? Pilot is actually 2 episodes. So it's your usual 13 episode season, but the pilot is a two-parter. So yeah.
Okay. My bad. So it's
no worries.
A lot. We're not talking about like a 6-year commitment. You could binge this in a weekend. It's not going to kill you. You'll love it. Save it for a snow day or a rainy day and enjoy it. So before we go too far, I do want to remind everybody, this is the official video game and board game podcast of EngageFamilyGaming.com. That's a website on the internet where parents like myself and my co-hosts come together to give you the information you need to get your family game on. And today, less about games, more about the television, although my understanding is you do play some video games on occasion, so we'll talk about some of that too.
All right.
And so let's just hop right into it. You know,
Sure.
People know the rigmarole and all that. So you made Skylanders Academy.
Yes.
Right? Like, you made it happen. But I presume that you are not responsible for all of it. Somebody, some point, was like, hey, Eric, you need to do this. Can you tell me how that all came about? Because I am super curious how all this stuff works.
Yeah, so as with a lot of projects in Hollywood, especially that are based on existing IP, such as video games, movie, or graphic novels, books, all that jazz. As an open pitch assignment out and about to the city, and Activision Blizzard Studio, which was in its infancy, basically, put out the bat signal that they needed they wanted a writer to come in and pitch their version of what they thought Skylanders Academy could be. So I got the call and went in and I met with some of the brass over there and kind of got the here's what we're trying to do, here's what we want it to be sort of layout. And then I walked away from that, took a couple weeks, kind of figured out what I thought the world could be, what the tone of the show should be. I played the video games because I wasn't familiar with Skylanders Academy at all before, or Skylanders, I should say, the video game series before getting the call to come in and pitch the show. So I had to do a very quick study on all things Skylanders. So then I just went back in and my pitch was, you guys know what you want this show to be, but here's who I think the characters are, and here's where I think we go with these characters, and here's some fun stuff that I think we do with them as far as comedy-based characteristics and storylines we can have with these this core five member team that you guys wanted to have, that they wanted us to have. So they bought my pitch off of that, and then I was off to developing a pilot script, writing a pilot script, and then we went into production on the first season with Activision paying for all the production and the writing and the acting and all that before we even knew where it was going to air. And Netflix was always the place where we thought it would be the best fit, so that we got really lucky in the sense that the product we were making fit what Netflix wanted to do and
Sure.
Their game plan. So yeah, it's been kind of awesome. Yeah,
right?
So far so good. Knock on wood.
So y'all had a plan, and it turned out that the plan actually worked. So
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, as I am familiar with some stories where everything just goes sideways and everything's duct taped together and rolls across the finish line. It's kind of nice when the best case scenario kind of happens.
It was tough. Like, don't get me wrong, especially with a CG show, you learn very quickly. I came from the Futurama, as you know, and with Futurama and The Simpsons, because it's 2D animation, you basically can take those characters anywhere you want, and you can do any story you want because there are really no limitations with the animation. CG, it's more like a traditional sitcom where you go, here's your 4 sets and here's your 7 characters for the week, and we need to make something funny or something exciting happen out of this limited real estate that we have. So that was the biggest challenge with the show, and I had to learn that quickly. We all did. We thought it would be easier to just go, hey, this week let's put a Eruptor inside of a volcano, and then next week we'll have Elf journey to the center of the earth, and by the way, those were never real stories. I'm just spouting off right now. But you learn quickly that a show called Skylanders Academy is basically going to have to take place at the Academy because that's our biggest set. That's where all the main sets are. And with Chaos and his mom's castle, like that was the other main set. So we had to concoct stories that really fit around, hey, A, what's going on at the Academy, and B, how does Chaos's evil plan for the week fit into all of that, without blowing out our budget, and there were times where budget was a big deal, like we had to, maybe, about midway through season 1, we were like, oh, we're spending too much money. So we reined it in, and season 2 is going to be a little bit more of that, actually, where because of budgetary constraints, we really had to get creative with our storytelling and how much we got to play with. But that's not to say we're not going to have some great new characters and great new sets, but we really had to be smart and slick about how to use the assets that we have. Everybody, that's what we call our characters and sets, our assets. So
sure,
that's the nuts and bolts of how to make a show like this work.
Sure. I mean, and what's interesting, that the show had a real like Saved by the Bell vibe for me while I was watching it. And part of that's because that's just kind of how I as being as old as I am, that is like what I associate as like the prototypical like high school dramedy. So so anything that kind of fits that, I mean, I'm sure the other folks of other generations probably feel differently, but like for me, it just like felt very Saved by the Bell, and I don't mean that as a slam, because I
I get it.
The show. So I had never really, outside of the fact that it was in a school and all that stuff, like I never really drew that connection about like, oh well, maybe it's like a sitcom, and the idea that it really was like a handful of like prime locations. If you think about it, you had the school, you had, Belding's office, which you guys had, the vault, the old wizard guy, and you had Zach's room because you had the dorm where the dudes were at. So, I mean, it was kind of there, that you didn't have the max. But like, close enough, right? And it was, so I thought it was great. So kudos to you guys. You guys, I mean, especially knowing that now that I know that there were some hiccups as far as budgetary concerns, I'll be honest. Normally, I'm pretty critical of the media that I consume by nature of my employment.
Sure.
But I didn't have the foggiest idea. So well done. I'm sure there was, Hollywood magic. Because I understand now that I'm starting to work in video, I'm starting to realize that pretty much everything is duct tape, Vaseline, and rubber bands. Making it to the finish line, especially for the end of season 1, was it felt like sometimes it was like by the skin of our teeth for sure. Because once we knew Netflix was going to air it, and we knew that they had that premiere date in mind, we had to make sure that suddenly it was like suddenly our feet were on the gas pedals, and it felt a little hairy there. It's gotta be, being that you come from like a traditional TV animation background, right, doing the Futurama, etc. It must have been weird knowing that you had to deliver literally the entire season, no questions asked, all at once, right? That must have been an adjustment.
Well, it's funny because season 1, season 1, we had a little more freedom because by the time they took the show to Netflix, we basically knew what every episode was going to be. And when Netflix got to see either scripts or animatics for what those episodes were, you know, they basically knew this is the show we're getting. But then moving into season 2, they wanted us to figure out before they said we're going to do 2 seasons of the show. You know, you tell us where the show goes, you know, in a big overall arc sort of way for season 2 before we commit. And that was a big challenge, because like as you said, you know, I'm used to writing, you know, on series where, you know, the writers get together in a room and, you know, okay, it's time for a new episode. Let's pick a couple characters and put them in a kooky situation, and, you know, come what may. You know, to have the serialized nature of what a full season was going to be, somewhat worked out before that season began. It was weird. Yeah, you know, it's a different way to write. It was a different way to write, and it was a challenge. But at the same time, there's something kind of great about knowing what your finish line is before you even start the race. Yeah. And so, you know, you have to train yourself as a writer to think in a different way. But once you get into the discipline of knowing this is what has to happen every episode because this is what we've already sold our partner on, you know, then it becomes easier. It becomes easier because, you know, the further you get into those scripts, the further you get into that season, you're like, okay, we're getting the rhythm for where this is headed. We know where it's headed. And, you know, we just, once you get to that finish line, then it's, you know, it was very gratifying because it's like, oh shoot, we did it. Fantastic. So yeah. But I'm experiencing it with other projects where it's becoming more of a trend in the industry where they're like, hey, you know, we're going to buy your show, or we're interested in your pitch. Tell us exactly what happens for the next 20 episodes. And you're like, what? I don't want to do that. just tell me you like the initial idea and buy that one. So yeah, it's just a different way of being creative. That's all. You just have to train yourself to do it. Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
force yourself to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you know, it's the job. I totally get that. Mm-hmm. Training yourself, forcing yourself to do something that you're not necessarily used to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of how I feel about playing terrible video games. I have to do it now, whereas before I would just take them back. So I'm sure that's a little bit different. My job's a little easier. I'll take that. So
yeah.
So we did get some questions from our Facebook group for those listening.
Great.
If you're interested. That's familygaming.com/community. There were most of the questions that I got in our group were all assuming that you knew everything about the video games, specifically if you knew about their future. So I don't know if they give you many keys to the castle, but I have to ask, do you know anything?
You can ask me whatever you want.
All right. So do you know anything about the future of the Skylanders video game series?
I'll be honest, I don't, just because that side of Activision's business, probably for the best reasons, you know, so I can keep my head down and keep doing the show. But I'm not privy to what the game side of the business is up to. You know, I know with them not releasing a game this year, that was that was a bit of a shock to fans, and a bit of shock to me too. I found out the same way, you know, fans did by, you know, online, you know, posts and all that jazz. But yeah, I'm the only time I'm kept in the loop about that stuff is when the Activision game brass wants us to implement something into the show that is synergistic with one of the games coming out. So, you know, speaking of Crash Bandicoot, you know, we did that Crash episode because they knew that they were going to release that Crash, you know, game piece, you know, and I'm sure. And then, by the way, I don't know anything for sure. I don't know anything for sure here, but my guess is there's probably some plan for a Crash Bandicoot spin-off or something like that in the future, because that's a big property for them. So, you know, who knows, you know? But yeah, as far as like Skylanders go, I do not know, and I hate to disappoint fans that way, but yeah, I'm the show guy.
I knew when they asked that I had to do my job and ask questions because they are the community. But I knew I at least had a feeling that I was going to be fine. Now, to give you information, because you may not know, with Crash, they actually just released the Crash Collection on PlayStation 4, and it's been selling like gangbusters. Yeah, like millions of copies.
Now, Crash is
millions of Crash fans.
Love Crash. So I feel like Crash has got a big future. I have no idea what their plan is. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, here's what we know about Activision is they love to make money. So if they can find a way to have Crash help them make money, they're gonna do it. And I think it's absolutely. When I found out they were taking a year off of Skylanders, I actually thought it was a great idea. They needed a break. Everything was it gives them a chance to like really reinvent themselves. Vicarious Visions, who was one of the companies that was working on it, was they were doing this Crash collection. So I thought it was a great, for me to editorialize a little bit. I thought it was great. They needed parents needed a break.
Yeah. Because, and plus they've done a lot of innovative stuff with the games. And I think that Imaginators thing was a big undertaking for them. So I think they probably just did need to regroup and go, okay, how do we come out swinging? If we do this again, how do we come out swinging bigger and better and keeping people invested in buying this type of video game, this style of video game with the the role playing and the pieces on the portals and all that. So it's probably for the best that they are taking a knee this year and figuring it out, teasing Crash stuff out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Crash, so you are literally Crash Bandicoot. Quite literally.
I did Crash Bandicoot. That was me.
So, to my understanding, you are not Australian.
I am not Australian. I'm from Ohio.
All right, so you're pretty convincing. You're pretty convincing.
Thank you very much.
So you wrote the thing. Normally writers do not write their own parts. So I have a feeling there's a story there. How did you end up being Crash Bandicoot?
Well, you're right. Writers, unless they are actors as well, they don't write roles for themselves. And I'm not an actor by trade. I've always been a writer in the industry. I had a theatrical background as a kid in high school and college, but it ended pretty quickly in college, and I concentrated on the English and writing side of things. So we wrote that episode. And Brittany Flores and I, and we were always under the impression that Activision would go for a big Australian fish to do the role. And we did try to cast a couple of names that passed pretty quickly. And then I'm trying to remember exactly how this all went down. We had one of our actors play the role on the show. I think it might have been Johnny Reese, who plays Jetpack. He did a fantastic Australian accent for us, but he sounded like Australian Jetpack. We kind of at a stalemate there, and we do this thing called Scratch Track when we're recording our episodes, when we need to deliver dialogue to our animators so they can draw boards and animate to. If we can't get an actor in time to record a show so it can get to the animators, we do a scratch track. And I did the scratch for Crash because it's a fun role. And my wife is also Australian, my wife of 17 years. So I've had this Australian accent in my ear for a long time. So I did the scratch track of Crash kind of on a lark, like, hey, how you doing, mate? All right, hey, I'm Crash Bandicoot, that sort of thing. And having fun with it, by the way, just purely in the booth, having a good time. And our producers see the animatic with my voice attached. And then they go, well, who's that? Who's doing the role? And they were like, well, that's Eric. And they were like, wait a minute, he's great. Why can't he be Crash? And I was like, well, no. Let's get a real actor. Let's get a real actor. They're like, no, you play Crash. This is awesome. And so that is really how it went down. I was not trying to write roles for myself. I have not since been writing roles for myself. But lo and behold, the stars aligned on that one, and my fun, sometimes criticized Australian accent stuck, and Crash had a voice, and is really great to see that final product there. I was happy with it. So even though I kind of pushed against doing it at first, at the end of the day, it was a good time. And I apologize to the Australians, any Australians listening, for ravaging your accents, guys. I tried to do my best.
Yeah. So speaking of Australians, so how did your wife like it? Has she watched?
She was surprised. She in a good way, because she's always told me that my Australian accent was terrible. But to be fair,
that's her job.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, when I would do my Australian accent for her, I would do it in the most obnoxious way. So, I'd walk out, you walk out in the morning and go, hey, g'day, mate. What are we having for brekkie? That sort of deal. And she just rolls her eyes, which is my end goal, is to get her to roll her eyes. But then, I came home and I told her, I was like, I think I'm doing Crash Bandicoot. She's like, what? And so then I played her the animatic that the producers had seen with my voice on it. She's like, okay. All right, I get it. I was like, look, it's not final. I'll go back in the booth and polish this up. But, she dug it at the end of the day. So, if my Australian wife wasn't like, basically jumping on the internet and saying everybody should hate this guy, then maybe I did something right.
Yeah, I would take it. I can speak also, my wife, who is also commonly a co-host on the show. She, listeners know, she likes to give me a hard time too, so I can appreciate that. So good job getting past the wife giving you a hard time test with your Australian accent. You had a high bar to cross, being that, so good job. My praise, not nearly as important as your wife's. So, so now we know how the show happened. We know how Crash happened. Now, there were a couple other questions. The biggest one that I saw was, how did you decide on who the main characters were going to be? Because obviously it revolves around like the group of guys, the 5 of them. Is it 5?
Yeah,
it's 5, right?
That was a decision that was made before I got the
so
job.
That was on high. Okay.
Yeah, the Activision game side said, if you're going to make a show, here's who we want the show to center around. We want it to be Professor X and his school for mutants. And here are the 5 that we're going to build this team around. And when I did my pitch that got me the job, I had the 5 main characters' game pieces with me, and I basically just pulled them out of my bag and I put them in front of the bosses, and I said, you know what? Here's who I think Spyro is, and here's where I think his story goes, and here's who I think Elf is, and she and Spyro are going to have this kind of relationship, and Jetpack is the senior member of the group. He's Captain America, and then over here's Pop Fizz, and he's the wild card. He's the mad professor that's tried too many of his own potions, and it's cracked his brain, it's that kind of thing. And so I think knowing that they were already settled on, here is who we are going to build the show around, it helped me with the pitch, because I didn't have to worry about picking the right people, the right characters to go in and say, here's who you should build the show around. I was just able to go, who you like, here's why I like them, here's where I'll take the characters if you give me the job. So it was so the Activision brass, they knew what they wanted, and then I just took it a little further.
Fair enough. That definitely made it easier on you. Having an idea when that was in the Skylanders release timeline. You're talking having to, if they didn't give you dudes, you would have had to choose between like 100 or more guys, and
Yeah,
that would have broken. I mean, that would have taken a lot more time. So
yeah,
I would
for sure.
imagine because you know.
Yeah, and it was one of those deals too, where as we started to pick secondary characters, they gave us a lot more freedom with that. You know, and there was no real rhyme or reason to that. Like, like picking somebody like Kaboom to be, a co-star or a recurring character, I should say. That's just because I had all these game pieces in my office to play with and look at, and I just look at a character and be like, okay, that guy's awesome. I want to use that guy in the show. He's like, and his powers are really cool. And and there's Chill and Roller Brawl, and they're super cool. And Hex and Skull, so a lot of it was just having these characters, these game pieces sitting in front of me, and then going, who gets me the most excited to tell a story about them. So that's really how those other characters came about. So
Great.
yeah.
So what was it like? You made your team. You created their personalities, etc. What was it like going through the process as they were starting to cast, and you saw these names coming up?
Yeah.
And what was that process like as the dominoes fell down? Was it cool? It must have been kind of
what's funny about it is you start off with this dream list of people, and to Activision's credit, they were willing to go after anybody and see who would bite, and in many instances we got like who we wanted off of the list. Like Justin Long was on our short list from day one. Ashley Tisdale was on our short list from day one. Jonathan Banks was on our short list from day one. Susan Sarandon was just to do the Golden Queen. Like there wasn't even a short list for that. That was just us going, who would be great to reach out to? Let's reach out to Susan Sarandon. She took the deal. Like it was so. I coming from Futurama, we had core 5 or 6 actors who did all the voices, and to have the ability and the checkbook to go to any actor and go, hey, here's this thing we're doing, and it's going to be awesome, and tell us what you want, and for it to work out in a lot of instances, it was mind blowing, dude. And the records, but and then the flip side of that too is, I never worked with, veteran VO actors like Richard Horvitz or Johnny Reese and Courtney Taylor. And, so, you have this name level of talent, and then you have this just dyed in the wool veteran voice actor talent. And like, they're so good, dude. Like, it was just like, it's so much fun being records with all these actors, and just hearing the voices come to life every week or every couple weeks when we do a record. It's just the best part of the job, man. Like that, you get to that finish line. That's one finish line. There are many after that, but that part of it was always it's always just so awesome, man. It was really, really great. It's really great. Still is.
Yeah, well, are you working with a lot of the same people for season 2? Is everybody coming back, or?
Pretty much, yeah. Like it kind of goes back to the thing we were talking about before with reusing your assets and your characters from season 1. We basically we had our actors locked into their deals, for multiple seasons. So unless we just decided somebody was not useful to use for story purposes, which is not the case for any of the actors we used in season 1, we're going to reuse all those characters. All those characters are going to come back in addition to a few new ones. So good stuff.
Awesome. So, one of the fans on the Twitter. So let me hop over there.
Yeah.
Because you retweeted me, and some of your fans gave some questions. So we may as well. And they're used to you being very active on Twitter, as I am.
Yeah.
Because I see you on there all the time. That's how we found each other. I just randomly started tweeting at you. So,
Yeah.
because I've found that that's a reasonable strategy for finding people, is if you just
That
tweet at
is.
them. Some people actually respond. It's crazy. So, the question that I got from Doodles and Toys, so that's at Doodles and Toys.
Yeah.
They tweeted, "Who are your favorite characters to write for?" Now, I do know that you did answer this one, but for those that don't want to dig back through your mentions on Twitter,
There you go.
who were your favorite characters to write for?
Yeah, my favorite to write for, and it was an easy answer when I did it on Twitter too, is our Jetvac and Eruptor, because Jetvac I think has the most layers of any character on the show. We do a lot of he's got a lot of development, and he's as the elder statesman of the group, there's a bit of the burden of being the team leader for him, and and having Johnny Reese voice the character. It's like one of those situations where the more you hear the actor play the role, the more you want to write stories for that character. So it's been a nice hand-in-hand situation with Johnny doing a brilliant job with the character, but also the character just having, he's kind of the grown-up of the group. So it's nice to write that stuff. And then with Eruptor, it's we're allowed to do our Homer Simpson's vendor jokes with him. He gets to do the dumb guy stuff, and and Eruptor's not a dumb guy, but the moments we get to play, some of his more loopy or goofball moments are some of my favorites in the show. Like my favorite episode we did in season 1 was the anger mismanagement, where Eruptor has to go through anger management courses during this chili cook-off attack. Some of Eruptor's lines in that show are just so great, and he's so innocent too. Eruptor's way of viewing things is just almost sort of puppy dog like. So he's kind of like the guy I like watching grow up, I guess you could say, as the series evolves. So yeah, Eruptor and Jetvac for sure.
Sure. What I love about Jetvac's inclusion in that show is he's actually my favorite Skylander.
Oh, that's awesome.
In general.
Great.
And part of that's because I like his powers.
Yeah.
In the game, and also I just think that his dad joke, because all the Skylanders are basically dad jokes. Like they're made for kids, but they're dad jokes. He's got a vacuum and a jetpack, and he's an owl that can fly, but he doesn't have wings because he has his jetpack. I just really, really dug that. So seeing him come to life, like that next level, was super fascinating for me. And having him be like that stuffy old guy, you will maybe this is an influence that was there. You didn't. The feeling I got from him is I saw some Cup in him. Cup from the original Transformers, the movie.
Oh, interesting.
A little bit of Cup. Okay. I saw a little bit. Cup is my boy.
Yeah, you know what? I've never seen that. So you know what, dude? Like that's pure luck on my part.
You've never seen the original 1987 Transformers the movie?
I have not. With Peter Cullen and all that.
Yeah. The animated one. All right, so here's what you got to do. Your homework before you come on the show again, because I'm inviting you back on the show again in the future.
All right, great.
To watch it. Because,
I'll do that.
Well, actually, unless you are anti-Transformer. Are you anti-Transformer? I know you're pro-Hasbro because of Hasbro stuff.
I'm pro-Transformer. I think I think the movies are just a lot of noise and hey, look at the shiny thing over here. But that's not Hasbro's fault. That's just the filmmaker.
That's Bayformers. This is different.
I love the Transformers universe. Right. I think it's super cool, and I've liked all the different modern tellings of the Transformer tales that Hasbro's put out over the last decade or so. So yeah, I very much thumbs up on the Transformers.
All right. So watch the '87 cartoon.
Yep.
it has not aged the best, but you'll
Okay.
understand when you see Cup. You will understand why I see a little bit of him in because he's like he is the experienced veteran who's a little harsh sometimes, but he's harsh because he needs to be, because like for real, dude, you should know better, that kind of stuff. So I saw a little bit of Cup in Jet Vac.
That's awesome.
Check it out. So it's worth looking at. Speaking of invitations, I was meaning to mention this in the beginning, but when the Olympics come to LA, you are welcome to come to Connecticut. I know you want to get as far away from LA as possible, so you are welcome to come. You can stay with me. We'll
Fantastic! Thank you very much, dude. I've never been to Connecticut. Boom, done.
I will be the first person, probably just by nature of the fact that it's a decade away, to invite you. We have the best wings on the planet, 15 miles away from me, so we got you covered.
Oh. Dude, nice. That's a hell of an invitation. I'm in.
And I did get it, and I got it cleared with the general already. So,
the
general is what I refer to my wife. She's the general.
Oh yeah, the boss.
I follow orders.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great, man. Thank you.
So 10 years from now, when we're old, we can watch Transformers and let the Olympics happen, so you don't have to be there.
We'll have a party where you can watch all the stuff I've written over coming out. It's coming out. How about that?
Yeah, because in 10 years, you'll actually be able to talk about all this stuff. Because
exactly,
you got
dude.
stuff going.
Yeah,
you got stuff going down that you can't tell anybody about, and you're being very coy on the Twitter, by the way. Being very coy.
I am. There's a thing I'm working on that I cannot wait to share with the world, but I got NDAs coming out of my wazoo. So
listen, I know about NDAs. I know about NDAs.
But it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool. Can't wait to talk about Skylanders season 2 more as well.
Yeah.
When I can on Twitter. But
So we know, like, is Skylanders season 2 still coming out this year? Can you not say that?
Absolutely. I know the date. I just can't tell you guys.
All right.
I know the date in the show, and I've seen and by the way, I've seen every episode. We've locked every episode. It's a beautiful, brilliant of a show. So Netflix has it, or they're getting all of it now, and I think now they're in their quality control part of the job. But as Chaos might say, soon. So
Well, I mean, we know that it was successful. We know that it was successful. I mean, Netflix doesn't give out numbers. I do wish that Netflix would do their own like NPD. I don't know why they don't self-report, because really, what do they care? I don't know why they don't self-report. Like, I think that would be neat. And I'm sure companies would want to know, because you want to brag. And
exactly.
Now that they're doing their own content, like, wouldn't it be cool for them to be like, well, screw you, HBO. Look what we're doing. But I'm sure they have a reason why they don't do their reporting. But we do know, even anecdotally, Skylanders Academy was well liked across a whole number of different demographics. Just anecdotally, I know lots of parents watched it with their kids and enjoyed it.
That's all the most important part. So that's great.
Oh man. I mean, that's the high mark for children's programming, right? That parents can watch it and not hate their lives for the entire time that it's on.
And I'll tell you, there's going back and watching season 1, there are things, knowing that it became ultimately a show for kids, because when we started out, it had more of a Futurama vibe, an edgier vibe to it. Some of those jokes still exist in the final product. But knowing at the end of the day, Netflix bought basically what was done for season 1 already when we sold it, the opportunity to go back in and change some of those, jokes you have to explain to your kid. I probably would take them out. Like there's, it's one of those things where like we were writing for an audience that we thought was going to watch it, but maybe we weren't so sure about the exact age number. And then when Netflix bought it, he's like, okay, this really is going to be a show for kids. So, 2020 hindsight, there's stuff I'd go back and ease off the gas. All right.
All right.
Anyway.
So noted. Man, well, the kids are. I've been fortunate here. I am in the underworld is where my office is. So I get to avoid them a little bit, unless they decide to stomp directly over me, which they have done while I was interviewing people before, which is great.
Yeah.
So. All right, so you can't. And I knew the details were not coming because what I was saying is they know it's a big deal. So I am sure Activision and Netflix are going to want to beat that drum and beat that drum hard. They're not going to give the scoop to little old me, and I get that. I understand. At the end of the day, I am because this is Entertainment Weekly kind of stuff, not me. So I know my place in the world. Trust me, Nintendo reminds Nintendo reminds me all the time. My Nintendo rep calls me Stephanie, and no matter how many times I try and correct her, she still does it. So I've just stopped trying. Nope, I don't even bother. I just let it go.
There you go.
You know what? Listen, you send me press releases. I don't care. I'm over it. So so let's wrap things up a little bit because I know your time is short because you've got a meltdown 10 feet away.
He's trying. It's like he's locked in a room or something. He's trying to beat his way out now. Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how old is he?
He's going to be 5 soon. So we're definitely we're in tantrum country right now.
Oh, absolutely. My youngest is almost 5 also, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So it has been a pleasure having you on the show. I know we've been kind of working on. We've been kind of kicking around the idea of having you on the show for a while on the Twitter. If you will, I absolutely would love it if you would come back maybe around when Skylanders Academy Season 2 comes out. Maybe we'll just kind of tentatively plan on doing something then, because I am sure there will be more questions after Season 2. And maybe by then we'll know about #Hasbro stuff. Maybe? Do you think?
Knock on wood, man. I think that where we're at with something there is we're getting close to being able to talk about it.
All right.
And like I said, as soon as I can, like I'm gonna blow the trumpet everywhere across the internet. So yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, if you
want,
if you would like to send me a quote, feel free to throw it into my Twitter DMs, and I will be sure to help bang the drum for you.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Everybody, this has been episode 98 of Engage, a Family Gaming Podcast. And as I said, it was a very special episode where we were joined by a very special writer because he wrote a very special TV show that wasn't on TV. It was on Netflix. I don't know. Do we call it TV anymore? Is it TV? I don't even know anymore. Right? Like, everything's so weird.
It's a TV show.
Yeah, exactly. How many people watch that on their phones? Probably a lot of them. So
there you go, dude.
Right? Like, it's just, everything is weird. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this very special episode of Engage, a Family Gaming Podcast this week. We hope you enjoyed it as much as me and Eric enjoyed recording it, because we had a lot of fun. So hopefully you had more. We'll be back next week. We're going to be talking about board games. Specifically, I actually have some really cool guests. I'm going to be at a playtesting event with the Geek Fever Games guys as they get ready to go to Gen Con 50. So it's going to be a little wild. We're going to be talking about some of their new game projects, talking about their rest of their year, which is great. They're good friends of the show. So until then, it would be sweet if you head on over to iTunes and leave us a review, because more reviews means more traffic, which means maybe I'll be big enough so I can get exclusives about #Hasbro stuff. Who knows? So make me Entertainment Weekly, people, is what I'm saying. So, and the review is the first step. Until then, this is Steven and Eric. We're signing off. Don't forget to get your family game on. We will see you next week.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to Engage, a family gaming podcast.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week.